we've asked Keith to come on stream. Keith's got an amazing kind of story in terms of how he got into cyber, and I don't want to ruin that for him, but I thought it was a really good opportunity to not just hear from me, because I know how it is to hear from just me, whenever I'm up here talking to you guys about, my cybersecurity journey or my advice and things like that. And so I thought it would be beneficial to hear from, from somebody who's lived it and walked it, and is potentially still on that journey. And so with that, I've asked Keith to come on the show. As I mentioned before, Keith is a cybersecurity professional. He's currently, doing some incident response work for an unnamed Fortune 100 company. And he's he's a brilliant individual. And so, without further ado, thank you again, Keith, for coming on the show. I appreciate you being here. You're on mute, Keith. Now you're having the audio fail.
Real brilliant there, huh, Neil? Thanks.
Hopefully you're not too nervous to do this.
No, it's fine. No, I'm glad to be here. I think this has been pretty good so far. I like the questions. That's probably been the most interesting part of this, is being able to hear from the users.
Now, is this the first time you've participated in a stream like this?
Oh, 100%. I don't do this stuff, so this is weird for me, but it's not terrible.
That's good. I'm glad it's not terrible. Let's not scare anybody off of that. So I think we we mentioned a little bit about your history and whatnot with where you've been. Now you spent some time in the military, right?
Yes, I did.
U.S. Army, if I recall correctly, right?
That's true. Yep.
So I want to start off by saying thank you very, very much for your service and your sacrifice. Thank you to your family for your service and sacrifice. It's a oftentimes unrecognized, unforgiving job, and people, I don't think, really understand the level of sacrifice that you make. And so from me to you, Keith, I really appreciate you making that sacrifice for our country.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks. Full disclosure, I didn't ever see any combat. I never left the States. It was all just training.
It's okay. It's all right that you still, and for those listening, right? I mean, you still made a conscious decision to sign your name on that line and indicate that you were willing to make that sacrifice. And so still good on you for that. But I do have one question for you because sure. And again, keep me honest. What was your job while you were at the Army?
You mean the job on paper?
Yes.
Okay. So it was a artillery forward observer.
Okay. So what is an artillery forward observer?
I'm going to get to that. So, that was my childhood dream, was to join the Army. Like, as a kid, that's all I wanted to do when I grew up. It's like, I want to be a soldier. And as I got near adulthood, near 18, 19 years old, I started learning more and more about Army Rangers, and that's what I wanted to do. And had no idea what to expect when I went to the recruiter, and didn't know that I held all the cards. So I said what I wanted, but I got something totally different. And an artillery forward observer. So I was airborne because I wanted to be a Ranger. You have to be airborne. And essentially what a FO forward observer does is they'll jump in behind enemy lines, and they'll find the enemy, locate the enemy, just like you see in the movies. Okay, yep. And then they'll call in those coordinates where the enemy is, and all right, call for artillery fire. Boom, boom. Okay, wasn't quite there. Add a few hundred more. Adjust left, and then fire for effect. So that's what that was. I never did that. I did it in simulations. I did it in training, but thankfully, I never had to see any type of actual combat.
So you jumped out of airplanes. So I think that's right. As an airborne ranger, you have to jump out of, you have to do that jumping out of airplanes to be an airborne ranger, right?
Yeah. Keep in mind, I was not a ranger. I was airborne, but yeah, prerequisite to be a ranger is you have to be airborne.
Okay. So so that was your childhood dream to do that. Like, you always wanted to be in the Army.
Yeah.
And did it live up to the hype?
Dude, I grew up in the '80s, right? So you've got your Schwarzenegger and your Stallone movies. You got Rambo and Predator and all that, right? That's what I thought it was. What it's going to be like. It was not. Um, I found that out very quick. And it's funny though. It did mature me. I did grow up in there in my experience, and when it came out, I definitely had a different outlook on things. So I'm very, very happy, and I was very fortunate to have made that life decision to enlist. And it was a good experience, but not what I thought it was going to be.
So you chose to get out, or was your time up, or kind
Nope,
of
nope.
can,
I did my
you might as well put that coffee cup down because I'm gonna keep asking you questions.
no, nope. I did my time, and I was like, hey, do you want to re-enlist? We could give you Hawaii. No, that's okay. So I really found that I missed Minnesota of all things. I missed the seasons, and like, okay, I'm not really grooving on this North Carolina or Georgia life. No, no offense there, Neil.
I was gonna say I was like, don't knock my home state now.
No,
Okay,
no, the
so
weather. I didn't like the weather.
so you got out in what 2000 I think it was that you got
Yep,
out. Yeah.
yep.
So you must I mean you've got a 15-year gap in your history, right? When somebody looks at your resume between the time you got out of the army, right, and the time you got your first cybersecurity job. What'd you do? Did you travel the world? Did you go on a mission trip? Did you go work with go do something charitable in some third world country or something? Like you had to have just done something amazing for those 15 years that you were out of work.
Yeah, I did something even more amazing, Neil. I raised a family.
Good job. Good job. And so what was kind of your focus? What was I mean, what was what did you do for how did you kind of leave the military and make that transition into civilian life?
It's funny, you know. I've always been fascinated by technology. Um, Even as a kid, I loved like hooking things up, and mom and dad would get a new VCR, and I was the one that was hooking it up at like 8, 9 years old. I geeked out on that stuff. And so when I did get out of the service, I went right back to my old job at a restaurant, working in the bar, busting tables, and just kind of living that life. And I had heard a commercial, uh, like our Twin Cities local radio station, like, hey, this week only, come and sign up to earn your Cisco CCNA certification, 1 week boot camp. And I was like, oh, I would just like, this is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. I have to do this. And it was $1,000. And, I didn't have it. I was my early 20s. And
Yeah, but you had just gotten out of the army. Not to interrupt you, but you had just gotten out of the army. GI Bill? You didn't have the GI Bill available to you?
man, and I still think about this too, is I do have a lot of veteran buddies who got out recently. And, they talk to me about their experiences getting out, and they have full courses on transitioning out of the service and what benefits are available to them. I didn't have that. And shame on me for not digging a little more, but I do know that my entire enlistment, I paid in every month to something called the GI Bill. I didn't know how to use it. I didn't know how to access it. I didn't know, and ignorance is bliss. So, what I did was back to that CCNA deal. I wanted to go to that boot camp. I asked my parents, hey, can I borrow $1,000 to take this? They're like, no, you have to make it on your own. So I ended up not doing the boot camp, and life happened, and I ended up working in factories most of the time. I did spend 7 years running my own business, delivering appliances, and that was pretty miserable stuff. And then, the few years leading up to my entry into this field, I worked in a factory just south of the Twin Cities. where we made shingles. They go on top of roofs. And man, I was making decent money. Nobody was starving at my house. We were doing okay. Bills were getting paid, and I legitimately thought this is where I was going to retire.
Was that what you were you
No,
did you want to do that, or did you
no,
just settle for that?
no. This If you lived in this town, this was the place you wanted to get into. You'd be able to come in, not have to think, and just do your job. It was a factory. It was physically hard, but the money was good. It was a union job. Benefits were good. Um, but no, Neil, I was not happy.
So
This is
you spent 15 years, working a job that just didn't bring you any satisfaction at all.
working
Multiple
about
jobs.
jobs that didn't bring me satisfaction. Yeah, this just so happened to be the last one where I thought, yeah, okay, I'm probably gonna settle down here. Um, and I didn't know any better. I
So,
just it wasn't. I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled in my job. No, no,
so
not at all.
I can only imagine how mentally and emotionally beat down you were. You'd gotten out of the service, you missed out on your GI Bill. You were doing some very very hard physical labor. How old was this you were in your 20s or your 30s when this was going on?
Combo platter there. Some of the 20s into the 30s. Yep.
So pretty kind of down on yourself, right? I can only imagine mentally and emotionally.
Right. It was. It wasn't like I hate my life or anything like that, but it was just like you go in, you do your 12, 14, 16 hours and punch the clock and go home. And it was overnights too. And that was extremely difficult because I had kids that I wasn't able to see because like, oh, dad's got to sleep. He just worked, you know.
So
So
then, where was your turning point? Like where did you go from slinging shingles over your back to, I mean, because when I think about like some of the things that everybody experiences in their life, you're pretty down on yourself. You're thinking you can't accomplish something. Where was that kind of turning point for you where you decided, okay, I've got to get out of this. I'm not happy with this. You know, where did you kind of have that turning point?
so there was a year where it was my life change year is what I call it. I was in the middle of a divorce, and at the same time, I got called into the office at the factory and like, hey, the economy's down. We've got to lay you off. Like, I've been used to it. We'd been laid off several times throughout the years, but we always got called back. And they said to me, you and 20 people below you, union shop, so it's seniority. Um, we're probably not going to get called back. I'm like, oh, okay. So now what? Um, and what I was able to do in my downtime was I I had met somebody um, who worked at a community college, and she said to me, she's like, we have this new computer program, and I know you like technology. Maybe you should enroll. I was like, I was never a great high school student. Um, so I was like, why am I going to succeed now at this stage of my life? But I ended up taking her up on it, and I went up and I applied. I looked at the program, and I was like, wow, yeah, this is pretty awesome. Computer networking. This is what I want to do. This is what I've wanted to do for, since I got out of the service. So
What about what time period? What year was this that all this was going?
about, about 7 years ago,
Okay, so we're
and
right in the prime of when a lot of the cyber stuff was really kind of
yeah,
blowing up in its infancy.
yep. So I enroll in this networking program, and what happened here was really the first in a long line of good luck. I really have to say that, where I had people in my life, mentors that really genuinely cared, and that's when I met the first one, and he was my instructor at this community college, and
Do you do
he
you,
said
do
to
you, do you
me,
want to give him a shout out while we're here?
yeah, his name's Chris Morgan. He's an instructor up at Pine Technical and Community College. So he said to me, he's like, I'm starting up this new cybersecurity associate's degree program. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, let's take a look. So I looked at it, I was like, wow, this blows networking away.
Had you ever been exposed to cyber before that moment at all?
No,
So you knew networking, you knew IT to a
right.
little bit of a degree, but the concept of cyber 7 years ago, you had no idea kind of what that even was.
No, no idea. I was aware of it, but what went into it, no, no, I did not. So I, I decided to switch tracks there and went cyber. I was like, okay, I can either do this networking thing or, do the cyber thing. And Chris told me, he's like, there's a company in St. Paul looking for security analyst interns. I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, and I want to put your name forward. You're driven. Yeah, I was a little older than your traditional college student, so I was extremely driven. Plus, what, this had to work. There's no going back to the factory. So um, I did switch tracks and went cyber, and I just fell in love with it.
So what
Um,
kind of things did you what kind of not to divert you here a little bit on this, but what kind of things did you learn about? Like what was that college program like? What was some of
um,
the courses you took there?
Super basic fundamentals. So think I know one of the courses that I took in that first semester was like training for the security plus.
Hmm.
So that level.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and the firewalls, IDS, IPS, things like that. There really wasn't much offensive security involved. I think there was like we messed with LOIC, low orbit ion cannon, time, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. It was like, oh, awesome, you know. So I got it in my head that once I'm done with this program, I know everything. I'm good to go. I'm going to be able to be like the best analyst on earth, and then I started my internship, and
Did you hold on before you get into that though? Before you jump ahead of that, did you know like did they teach you job roles? Did they teach you a security analyst? Did they teach you like what a security analyst typically does in a company? Did they teach you what to expect? Like did they break down the careers for you at all? Did you knew nothing at all?
not a thing, man. I had no idea. I thought that that's all there was security analysts. That's it.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, I'm a
Security
security
analyst and
analyst.
we all do everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
And what it was, it's kind of embarrassing but funny at the same time. My better half, when I was studying and stuff, I like staying up at night studying. She was in the background watching Grey's Anatomy. The medical show, the
yeah,
medical
yeah,
drama,
yeah.
and I started looking at that show, and it was like, it's pretty close to security, the medical field, and I
Okay, this
really
is
had
interesting.
those.
This ought to be interesting.
I had those two tied together. Um, and when I break this down, you're going to kind of understand it. All right. So, you've got your emergency room doctors, right? And they take in the patients and like, okay, whoop, whoop, all right, we'll patch you up here, off you go. Or, oh wow, this is pretty bad. We're going to send you up to neuro. Oh wow, this is bad. We're going to send you up to cardio. Oh gee, we're going to send you up to orthopedics, right? So think of the ER doc as the triage analysts, the
Mm-hmm.
triage team, okay? And then think of your neuro, think of your cardio, think of those as like your specialists, your malware specialist, your network security specialist.
But you
So
didn't have this realization at the time. You can look back on it like, or were you having this kind of epiphany like as you were
I was
doing it?
I was having this during my internship.
Were you? Oh, during your internship. Well, no,
Yeah,
I
as
haven't.
a,
I want to. What I want to ask you though, like on your internship though, right? When you first started your internship, what was that like for you? Like, what did you think? Like how vastly different from
oh
what you were
man.
taught in college to your internship? How vastly different was that?
All right, so think of, I guess I'll just use numbers. I thought I was going to come in there and change the world. That's what I thought. Um, it was the one of the most humbling experiences of my life.
How so?
And
What was humbling about it?
um, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. I mean that. And that's not the college's fault. That's not the curriculum's fault. It's just that I think there's a couple reasons there. Number one, it was still so new, that program, number one. Number two, what we do doesn't really lend well to formal education all the time. Like, you're going to learn the fundamentals, that's fine, but how to apply them in a unique organization, that's completely different.
So what was some of the things that you were doing when kind of, if part of this internship, what was some of the roles that you were fulfilling that you felt ill prepared to fulfill?
Anything to do with malware.
Like even analyzing it, even detecting it?
I'd say analyzing it. I mean, I didn't realize there were that many strains. Yeah, okay, and just being being afraid to ask questions because I didn't want to
Mm.
look stupid. That's something that I hope nobody ever has to go through. I hope nobody's ever afraid to ask a question.
How long did that sit with you from the time you started working as an intern to today? How long did it take you to cope with that?
I'll let you know when I stop.
That's fair. That's a good response. That's a very good response. That's
we'll,
a
we'll
good
go
answer.
with that, but realistically, somewhere around the 2 year mark is when I was like, you know what, I got to stop being afraid to ask questions, and exposing myself, exposing my lack of. You're not going to know everything in what we do. You're just not, and don't expect yourself to either.
So
Um,
so let's kind of get back to that a little bit, right? Is how long did you sit in an internship before you got your first like full-time job?
it was roughly about, I want to say about 9 months. It, I had to wait till I graduated from the that 2 year program, and then it was like the week before I graduated, I got my offer, and man, it was like the best day of my life.
So you
Like,
got an offer for full-time employment. You went to work, the next day, for the same company, or was it for a different company?
same company.
Same company. So you worked for the company that you did an internship with, right? So did anything change right between when you were an intern to your first day of employment, or was it just like changing out one badge for the other?
It, I think the only thing that changed was I changed my signature on my email. That's it. No, it's like nothing. It's not like you're gonna suddenly like, okay, I'm a real person now.
Yeah.
No, it's you're doing you're gradually growing. It's not like these huge cliffs
Right.
where
So you didn't instantly, just because you were a full time employee out of an intern, you didn't instantly like know anything more than you knew the day before.
no. Uh
Were you
you know,
just as scared when you were a full time employee as when you were an intern?
no, I think some of that dust kind of fell off a little bit. I spent all that time studying and taking tests and all of those things that college students do, and now I just realized I can just take the 12 seconds and look it up on Google.
Google's your friend, right?
Yeah, that's another thing too, is I didn't know, or something in my brain told me it wasn't okay to have to look online. Like, oh, everything's got to be in house. I'm sure there's answers for it somewhere. No, that's not the truth. You have to use the internet.
So so you're 9 months in an internship. You convert over into a full time employee. You're coming up on your kind of 1 year, if you will, anniversary into cyber. If
Sure.
you looked at that 12 months right there, what was the hardest part of your first 12 months in cybersecurity?
Accepting that reality that you're not going to be the super analyst. Um, Accepting the reality that this is a new situation. This is a new field. And it was tough. It was tough to go in sometimes for days. And it's unfortunate because I didn't know it at the time, or maybe it was too scared and naive, but I was working with some very great people. I got real fortunate to have a leader or two that I really respected and really helped me along the way. I had mentors with me that genuinely cared about me and my success, not just me, but the team's success, and made sure that I was a part of it. Um,
So,
you
so
know,
was it? Would you say that it was? So during that first 12 months, did you quickly establish yourself with somebody, in your first 12 months that could help you kind of grow in the career field?
I'd say there was two people, two of my peers, you know, um, senior analysts, as it were, that really paid attention and made sure that I was involved.
What was the did you partake in, at any point in time in your first 12 months of cybersecurity, any type of toxic culture whereby you felt shunned or like it was a bad thing that you didn't know everything when you showed up on the job?
Looking back on that time, I don't think it was anybody on my team specifically. Um, there were people that are long gone that, there always are going to be those people that just, you're an intern, you don't matter. There wasn't a lot of that. Definitely not, specifically not on our team, but I mean, it was around.
But generally speaking, the people that helped you grow through your internship and through your first 12 months on the job, right? Those people were generally supportive and helped you kind of grow as a cybersecurity professional in the industry.
Absolutely, not just as an analyst, but like you said, like a cybersecurity professional.
When did
Or
you when did you have that moment where you realized that it wasn't just about you being an analyst day in and day out, but it was about the cybersecurity, what we call the cybersecurity community? When was that moment for you?
it was definitely sometime into my second year. Maybe I'm a little more slow on the draw, but definitely somewhere between in the middle of my second year, I'm like, okay, looking around and kind of seeing where things are. Yeah, somewhere around my second year.
You know, and what was kind of your exposure? When did you, at that point in time early on in your career, did you get exposed to, you talk now about having peers at other companies and things like that? When was the first time that you realized, kind of that the cybersecurity community in the St. Paul area was what it was? And when did you kind of get exposed to like talking to some of those guys in the St. Paul area?
Um, about my second year, it was like right, like let's say month 14, because the first 12, man, I'm just trying to absorb and,
Drink from
and
the fire hose.
yeah, exactly. Because not only you're drinking from the cybersecurity fire hose, you're drinking from an enterprise fire hose too. So you've got two things you've got to learn at once, and
So,
that's
so speaking
yeah.
of learning, then, how did you how did you pick apart what the things that you knew you were going to learn from OJT, from on the job experience, versus things that you knew that you had to go outside, of your organization to outside certifications and things like that. What was kind of that moment for you like?
When was it or what was it?
What was it? What was it?
I think it was when I realized the importance of. I mean, we don't do this anymore because of the current pandemic, but meetups, um, happy hours after work, and getting together with people. Starting to listen to podcasts, starting to read blogs, and like, oh wow, yeah, you've got to do a little bit more. Um, just because you went to school doesn't mean it's not going to carry you. You know what I mean? What got you there isn't going to get you here.
Now, in full transparency, I've known Keith for a number of years, and I've been part of some of his educational journey, and I can tell you that he's put a lot of time and effort into his self study, and it's something to be very, very proud of, Keith. And I imagine you are very, very proud of the work that you've done. Can you kind of talk through, a couple of those kind of mental realizations where you decided to kind of put yourself back out there and start to get yourself credentialized?
Okay, yeah. So that's day one of my internship. Well, let's go back a little bit. When I was in my 2 year program, I did get like the CompTIA A+, and I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Then I got the Security Plus. I'm like, okay, wow, look at get these fancy letters, blah blah blah. But it was a different time for me. But my first day, my mentor, my official mentor, she came and met me at the front desk, and went back to her cube, and she kind of debriefed me on everything, and I saw she had this piece of paper on her desk, and these letters CISSP, and I'd only heard them a few other times, and I was like, wow, that's the gold standard. I've heard. She's like, yeah, it should be. The company spent like $7,000 to send me to a boot camp, so that's when I realized, wow, this certification thing, that might be something I should probably really take seriously. So there went a couple years where I really did start chasing those certifications, because I thought that really made you somebody in the security field.
Whoa! So I've never heard you say it like that before, right? You said you thought they made you somebody in the security field.
Yep.
What can you elaborate on that a little bit?
All right. So, um, over time, I used to really be like, just, oh wow, that person's got the CISSP, or that person's got so and so this many GACs, and even for myself, I did go back, and part of my bachelor's program was the requirement was to get the CCNA. So like, oh wow, 3 years ago, CCNA. Now we've come full circle. Remember when I first
Yeah,
came out of the
yeah,
service?
yeah, yeah.
So like, oh wow, all these things. But what I've learned and what I've encountered is capability is much more important than credentials. I'd rather take somebody who's capable with no credentials than somebody who's got
Are
all
you
the
saying
above
are
mentioned.
you
Yeah.
saying that certs are not valuable?
Nope, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that my perception and my value on them has changed. And I don't know, maybe that's just because I don't know, grown up a little bit. No, but I think that the journey to get that certification and what you learn along the way, that's what's important. The certification is the carrot. It's recognized that you know enough to pass this exam
Mm-hmm.
or that exam.
So
But
then
they're HR filters sometimes.
they're HR
Yeah,
filters.
they're
I
HR.
was wondering if you were going to go that route. So then would it be fair to characterize then that the predominance of your learning, the predominance has come from, just kind of being in the throes of your day-to-day job then?
That's where you're going to learn. That's exactly where you're going to learn. You're going to learn from your day-to-day job, and you're going to learn from doing at home, from
Now,
breaking, from setting up labs, from
so
reading
I'm
blogs.
glad you brought in the working from home, or the bringing, whatever it is that you do from home, and again, I don't know the answer to this one, so I'm asking you this one, for the first time. Do you do anything at home? Do you do any self-study at home?
Yes, I do. Well, let's take it out of the certification realm, because that's where the majority of my self study has been. But I found myself in that this pattern where it's cert study, cert study, cert study, cert study, right? And then I go so hard and so fast, where it consumes, because I guess I'm goal driven is what it's called. And I just have to get to that end line, right? And so when that's done, I'm just so done between working and self study for that cert that I just need to walk away from any type of after hours, like real hardcore labbing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's something I'm trying to get away from too, because it does lead to some burnout.
I was gonna say, so it sounds like to you, you feel like cybersecurity burnout's a real thing.
100, I 100%. I mean, we've seen the studies, we've seen the articles. I'm not saying. I mean, I've been in this for a number of years, but nowhere near to what other people have been. So there's yeah, burnout.
Burnout's
I don't have the right to even say that word, but if you don't take care of yourself and take time, and I mean take time, I mean get away,
right.
unplug, just don't read about it, don't talk about it, go away for a week, be with your family, be by yourself, whatever makes you happy. You have to do it. It's self-care, it's important.
So I think that's a really good point, a really good segue. And I think, kind of one of the things that I almost always ask people during, my interviews with them, whenever, I interview folks for cybersecurity jobs, right, is what do you want to be when you grow up? So with where you've come from in your past, and the amazing story that you've got in getting to, the place that you're at right now from a cybersecurity perspective, as you look forward on your career, what do you want to be when you grow up?
All right. So what I want to be is I want to be a combination of people, parts of people that I've worked with that I respect, the leaders that I've worked for, some of my peers, some of the people I'm working with now, some of the new people that are coming into this field. I want to be that kind of mentor to the next generation of analysts that come in, and I want to be very good at what I do, and I want to be part of a team that's exciting to be around, and because what we do is exciting by nature. Not every day. I don't want that. I I don't want that message to get out there that it's exciting every single day, because it's not. There's boring stuff sometimes that we have to do in the job. Um, and I'm not going to lie and say that, oh yeah, I get to go to work and do my hobby, because that's cliche. It's cliche probably because it's true for some people, but I'm somebody that needs to get away after X amount of hours per day. You know what, I enjoy my free time. So to go back and answer your question, what do I want to be when I grow up? Well, I want to be good at what I do.
So you could stay an analyst for the rest of the time until you're 62 and a half and you go to retire. You just want to keep perfecting your craft.
Yeah, you're not wrong there.
Yeah. Yeah. See, and so for folks who are listening, right, who've heard me speak before, right, this is one of those times where, cybersecurity affords you that ability to where you had that choice to be able to do that. And so, that's awesome that's where you want to be, Keith, and good on you for that. So let's kind of let's kind of roll this up. So you're in a good spot now. You've got an excellent, exciting, career that you deal with right now. If you had to do the top three, right? So you always tell Neil's type of way to wrap things up, right? Is what are the top three pieces of advice that you would give to maybe there's a college student out there, that's about to graduate and get into cybersecurity. Maybe there's somebody that's in the military that's trying to leave the military and get into a cybersecurity career, or maybe there's a junior person in cybersecurity right now that that's struggling to understand, like, what it is that they need to be looking at or doing. What are the top three pieces of advice that you'd give them?
All right. First off is I'd find somebody in this field, find a mentor, find somebody that's willing to take you under their wing, um, and that genuinely cares about you as a person. Um, you know, I've been lucky to have that my whole career. There's been there's leaders, and there's been one specific leader that has been there my whole career, and cares about the people that works for this leader. So find somebody like that, that can guide you, and you'll go a long way with that. Number two, just continue to have drive. Be passionate about it. Be passionate about learning new things. Um, that's really a big part of the three that you're talking about here. The three things you're asking for is drive, commitment. I mean, this, you have to go hard and you've got to go fast. Um, each day, you have to continue to dig, and go beyond what it is that's required of you.
So we've got
That's
find a mentor, be passionate.
Yep, and drive, passion and drive. I think they go together. Yeah, and then the third thing, you've got to not be afraid to ask questions. You can't be afraid. Don't make my mistake that held me back for about a year and 2 months. Um, ask questions.
So there you got it, folks. Right? Find a mentor, be passionate, right, and don't be afraid to ask questions. Right? Those are things that you can do today. Advice there from a seasoned cybersecurity analyst. So thank you very much for sharing your story, Keith. Folks who are just tuning in, and folks that are listening, don't be afraid to post your questions. We're gonna take a few minutes now and do a quick Q&A with Keith. Keith, we've got some questions that have showed up in chat. From folks. And so as Keith is answering these, if folks are listening now, don't be afraid to post in chat any questions you've got for Keith about, cybersecurity, incident response, or an analyst, or anything about his journey, if you've been listening to his journey. So real quick, Keith. So you got a couple questions here from Minicant on Twitch, and so I thank you, Minicant, for your questions. First one, Keith, what did you take from your internship, and is now part of current internship programs that are at your company?
What did I take from my internship? Um, well, it's interesting because the company that I did my internship with was acquired, so that program doesn't exist anymore. So it was sort of dissolved. Um, but I think I guess it does exist, probably in any internship. And what we do is have a buddy, have, not just a mentor, but have somebody that you shadow, or that is shadowing, and somebody that, takes them under their wing.
Okay. So buddy system worked out for you during your internship.
Yep.
All right. Next question. So this is a little bit of a long one here. What part of the internship program called upon you and you can recommend to the newer future SOC analyst to search, and then call that this is the job that they'll love?
Hmm. Different for me, just because I wasn't a traditional intern, as it were. But the thing that really I liked about being in cybersecurity or working in a SOC environment was the variety every day. Um, it's something new every single day. There's always fires to put out, and that can be overwhelming. So that needs to be tempered. Keep the keep the excitement too. Don't ever let it get to the point where it becomes burdensome, or too much, or overwhelming. That's when you know that it might not be the right fit. I've seen it happen, um, and it's not fun to watch. So just keep that excitement, keep the passion, keep that drive, and keep the curiosity.
Okay. Um, Next question was, what are the best tools that a triage team can use?
The best tools that a triage team can use. Well, I'd say the best tool that a triage team can use is right between their ears. their brains. I do see a lot of people not using them. Um, Not where I work, but I see it online. I see it with my peers in other organizations. Um, but if I have to say one thing, it's not a tool that you can buy. It's one that you put together, and that's the process. Build the good processes, build checklists. I've seen news stories where there's been life endangering incidents where a doctor goes by a checklist, and that's how they were able to save a life. So if you can save a life with a checklist, you can probably save yourself from being breached too. So yeah, process, checklist in your brain.
Is there, I'm going to pick on this one just a little bit here and just kind of deviate on it. Is there, when you think about your sock that you work in, or socks of your peers or things like that, is there, outside of the process, right? Because when we talk about a good organization, right, if we look at people, process, and technology, what are some of the technology, pieces of advice, or just a couple points about the technology that exists inside of a SOC that make it easier for a SOC analyst or an incident responder to kind of do their job?
Oh, a sim.
Sim.
Yeah, you need a sim. Um, that's so you don't have to have nine panes of glass open. Not only that, but it's going to help you correlate too. It's going to help you correlate, and you're going to be able to rule out those false positives a lot sooner. Um, Sim is the biggest one that comes to mind in terms of technology, because if you have good process, you should be able to be technology agnostic. Another good one though is you need to have a place to collaborate. I don't know what that
When we
is,
think
but
about collaboration, are you thinking about like Slack or
yeah,
Teams?
yeah, that way nobody's tripping over each other doing double work.
Gotcha. All right. So next question then. Are certifications a must, and must in all capital letters, before you apply for an analyst job?
I'd say 3 years ago, yes. I'd say 3 years ago that was an absolute must. What I'm seeing now is that hiring managers who used to be analysts realize that they're kind of maybe made of straw sometimes, not necessary to become a good I know analysts that don't have any certifications that are superstars, rock stars. So, but to get in the door, yeah, I almost wonder if HR at some organizations still want to see something, and that's concerning to me.
So let's put a finer point on it, right? In your opinion, certification's a must before you apply for an analyst job?
No.
Okay. All right. Agree with you on that one. I wasn't sure if we were going to have a disagreement on this one or not. All right. So here's another question then. What is your current and present magnet that keeps you proud of your work?
Oh wow. Um, I'm not. Anybody can go online and see where I work, but yeah, that's what it is right now. Is I'm incredibly proud to work for who I work for.
The mission.
Yeah, what what they stand for. Yeah.
Good man. All right, last question for Minicant. Then he had a lot for you, so you've got a real fan in Minicant there. He was really proud of your contribution here. So last question for Minicant: what is the last thing you do when you log off? Remember, there might be people who are watching this. Be very appropriate with that answer. Don't.
Sure. Before I log off.
Yeah, like before you let's clarify that one, right? So before you go home, right? Before you wrap it up at the sock and you go home that day, what's the last thing you do when you log off? Or and then kind of second part of that, before you go to sleep at night, what's kind of the last thing you do?
Oh, like log off
Yeah,
up here.
yeah.
Well, I have a mind that just it's always going and always going, and at night it tends to go even faster. So I listen to a I listen to a sleepy time podcast to help me go to sleep.
Did you just use sleepy time on a stream?
Hey, I will 100%. That's a great podcast, man. If you're one that just it keeps going at night,
Yeah, yeah.
sleepy time pod, it'll get you there.
Oh, good deal. So I think Keith, for those who are listening, right, I think Keith warned us that there might be some potential nefarious comments coming through on chat. We've got somebody as an unidentified guest posting up in chat right now. Keith, longtime listener, first time caller, wants to know what your thoughts are of 2020 so far.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, it's been a year. I thought
No,
2000.
it's actually been 7 months.
Wow. I thought 2016 was bad, but pandemic wise, I think we're all in the same boat there. It's awful what's happened. It's tough to watch. Um, it's changed the way that I think people realize business can be done, working from home. It's put a strain on the cybersecurity community, as we know.
Do you
But
think it's made it better or worse for us?
I think it's made it better in that maybe some of the old guard that may have thought, it's not okay to work from home, it's not doable. Well, we're seeing being forced to that you can. So there's that, and I don't really think this is the correct forum to speak on the
No,
yeah.
no. We keep politics out of this. Has COVID been good or bad for cybersecurity?
Well, I think it's been good. I think it I think it's been good.
Do you think that there are more cyber attacks now than there were before COVID?
I think there's more. Um, and I think there's more. I think that, let me go back on that. I'm not sure. Maybe we're just being made aware of more because there's more coverage and people have more time to take it in. Also, more and more organizations are getting visibility that they didn't have 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And maybe they've always been getting attacked like this, but now they're starting to see it. And now those metrics are starting to come out. So you can look at it a couple of ways there.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, again, excellent questions from everybody. Thank you so much for asking the questions, Keith. Thank you so much for answering them, Keith. I want to say, I've worked with you for a number of years. You were a fantastic, person to work with. I'm super proud of you for everything you've accomplished. You've got an amazing story. If you're at home, give this guy a cheer, show some love for him in chat, let him know that he's got your support and whatnot. In terms of, oh, never mind. Our anonymous viewer came back and asked one more question for you, Keith. I'll let this one go through. Right? What he meant by that is, what do you think of 2020 so far and the wave of vulnerabilities that have been disclosed in 2020?
It's tough if you're making firewalls.
Just firewalls, huh?
We'll start there, but yeah, no, the constant barrage of CVEs that are getting released. That's it's made job security. Yeah, something.
Is it job security, or is it a pre-indicator of another WannaCry event?
Man, I don't even want to go there. Honestly, I don't want to go there because that's painful. Yeah. Honestly, that's painful. That's.
Do you think we've seen? Do you think? We'll get back to the COVID one. Do you think we've seen more vulnerabilities disclosed in 2020 because of COVID, or you think that it's just a perfect storm of stuff?
No, there's something to that COVID thing. My boss actually said this to me, in a candid conversation. He's like, what if there are more people just with more time on their hands people that normally wouldn't get mixed up in any type of maliciousness. And now, like, oh yeah, I don't have a job. I'm sitting at home, still collecting a paycheck, but now I can really do some of these hobbies that I was doing before, but now I can really focus on them.
Oh, you know what? I'm out of a job. I'm gonna go write some malware. I'm gonna go find
Yeah,
some
yeah.
0 days.
Well,
I can advocate that that's probably not the career advice you want to take. If anybody's listening to that, that's not the career advice he's advocating for.
but yeah, that could be some of it. Just more people.
Yeah.